Good morning, kiddos. Miss Auda here. Today is April 16th. This video is for my fifth graders. Our focus is on math today. Okay, so fifth graders, today standard is you need to be able to understand that when you're trying to multiply a fraction with a whole number, what is happening to the numbers. You need to know what that means. You need to be able to explain what does it mean to have this number of fractions grouped into this number of whole number. Okay, and we will go ahead and talk about that as we work on our word problem. But before we go to our word problem, I want us to warm up with some number sense with fraction. Okay, so let's go ahead and play Splat. So what number does this represent? What do you see? Well, you see four holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you see halves. Well, I can combine halves to make holes, right? So that means there should be 7. Did you count 7 holes? Now I'm going to splat. Now I see there are 2.5 shapes left. So 2.5 plus what will get you to 7? Think about that. What is the total under the splat and how do you know? Okay, think about it a little bit more. How else could you know? So before we look under the splat, I'm going to explain my thinking. So you have 2.5, right? If I need another half to make a whole. So that's 2, 3. Well, if there's 3, I need 4 more to get to 7. So that means there should be 4.5 underneath the splat. That's how I think about this. So let's see if I'm right. There's 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes, 4 holes, and a half. So 4.5. Okay, just make those holes. Let's try another one. Okay, we see 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. What's the fraction? Well, these are fourths. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. That's another hole. So that's 6. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. Another hole. That's 7. So there are 7 holes here. So let's go ahead and cover some up. We have 1, 2, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 3, and 1/4. So that's 3 and 1/4. How many more will you need to get to 7 if you have 3 and 1/4? Think about it. Did you get 3 and 3/4? Right? Because that 1/4 needs 3 more fourths to make a whole. And then that will give you 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go to the next one. All right. I see 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I see thirds, 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. That's another hole. So that means there are 5 holes here. Let's cover some up. Now you see 2 and 1/3. Well, again, I know this 1/3 will need 2/3 to make a hole. So that's 1, 2, 3. And I need 2 more to get to 5. So 2 and 2/3. So let's see, 2 and 2/3. You see that? Okay, let's try this one. Go ahead, count it, pause the video, and press play when you're ready. Did you say 7? Did you see all of them? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. I'm going to keep counting fourths. 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4, 9/4, 10/4, 11/4, 12/4. 12/4 is 3 whole. So I have 7. 4 and 3 is 7. Now some got covered up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1/4. We have 5 and 1/4 covered up. So 5 and 1/4 covered up means, sorry, not covered up, 5 and 1/4 showing, which means I have a 3/4 hiding. That'll get me to 6. So I need one more whole. So let's see if we're right. Is it 1 and 3/4? Let's see. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. That's one whole. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Yep, it's one whole and 3/4. Good. Let's do another one. These are now in thirds. Can you count the thirds? Did you guess 5? Or did you count 5? I hope you didn't guess. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that's how many there are. Now cover some up. You have 1, 2, 3, and 1/3. So you have 3 and 1/3. I know there should be 2/3 there to make a whole. So 3 and 1/3 plus a 2/3 will be 4, plus one more whole is 5. So let's see if we got 1 and 2/3. So we have one whole and 2/3. Yes. Okay, let's try another one. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wholes, 1/2, 2/2, 3/2, 4/2, 5/2, 6/2, and 6/2 is 3 wholes. So we have 3 wholes in fraction and 6 in whole. So we have 3 and 6 is 9. Let's cover some up. We have 4 and a half, right? 4 and a half. How many are hiding? Well, I know this half needs another half to make a whole. So if I have a half here, that'll be 5. And I know 5 plus 4 is 9. So there should be 4 and a half underneath the splat. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. Okay, let's go ahead and give this word problem a try. Bernice uses 2/3 yard of ribbon for each bow she makes. How much ribbon would she use if she made 7 bows? So think about a ribbon, about a yard of ribbon. And Bernice is using 2/3 of that ribbon to make one bow. But she wants to make 7 bows. So we want to know how much ribbon or how much yard would she use if she made 7 bows. All right, let's see. So let's make a model. So let's pretend this is a ribbon, right? And she's using 2/3 of that ribbon. 2/3 yard of that ribbon. So that means there's a third left. So for every 2/3, there's one bow. But she's making 7 bows. So for one ribbon, she can cut that into thirds, right? And use 2/3 of that to use for one bow. Now for her second bow, she'll need another yard of ribbon. But this time she can use the 1/3 that's left from the previous ribbon and another third from the second ribbon to make a second bow. Now do you see there are some ribbons left? Yeah, she can use 2/3 of the ribbon to make a third bow. So right now she has 2 ribbons or 2 yards of the ribbon to make 3 bows. So if I just double that, I can get 6 bows, which means I'll need 2 more yards of ribbon. So that means I need 4 more yards of ribbon. Let's take that slower. So here's another ribbon because I need more to make bows. Same thing, 2/3 will give me 1 bow. I'll need another ribbon, another yard of ribbon, and here are 2 more thirds to make that 5th bow, and then those 2 more thirds will make that 6th bow. But I need a 7th bow. That means I need 4 yards, sorry, a 5th yard of ribbon. But from this 5th yard, I don't need all of it. I just need 2/3 of it, right? So even though I have a 5th yard, I don't need the whole thing. I just need 2/3 of it to make that 7th bow. So how many yards of ribbon did I need? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2/3. All right, so what does that mean mathematically? Well, it means you needed 2/3 for each bow. 2/3, 2/3, 2/3, 2/3, 2/3, 2/3, 2/3 for each bow, which is the same thing as saying 2/3 7 times, right? 2/3 times 7. Well, that's just basically going 2, 2/3, 4/3, 6/3, 8/3, 10/3, 12/3, 14/3. So 2/3 times 7 is really 14/3. But 14/3 is an improper fraction. That means it's more, there's a lot of holes there, right? So I can make holes just like what we were doing with splats. So how many holes can we make in 14/3? Well, 14/3 I can make a hole, 3/3, 6/3, 9/3, 12/3. That means I'm left with 2/3. Well, these 3/3 are all holes. There's 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes, 4 holes. So really 14/3 is 4 and 2/3. All right, I hope you learned something. I hope to see you all soon. Goodbye and good luck.